I'm Roy Potter, a former U.S. Army Lieutenant Colonel. Welcome to the Potter Expositor. Hi ladies and gentlemen, today is December 21st, 2017. I'm Roy Potter and welcome to the Potter Expositor. I did a live stream last night and I know a lot of you don't want me to say this, but I do apologize for the difficulty in the transmission. The weather here was very bad. It was snowing. There was some interference probably from the powers that be up the line. That's very possible. Or it could have just been, another problem with the connection. I'm not really sure, but I wanted to get the information out anyway, and this is the follow-up video that I said on Twitter that I would do. Now, for those of you who are communications savvy, who understand problems with satellites and those types of things, it might be a little irritating to you that I would say, I'm sorry, but there are a lot of folks out there who really don't have an idea what's involved in some of this technology. As good as it is, it also has a lot of foibles, and you saw that last night. My channel isn't monetized, so they can't punish me by taking away monetization. So the other way that they would do it, of course, is censorship, which is kind of a difficult point for them at this time. But interference is certainly another way. But I'm not certain that's what happened. I think it was a satellite uplink that was messed up. So at any rate, here's the follow-up video so that I can touch on the important points. I won't go over everything as long as I did last night, plus you don't have to wait for me to answer questions on the chat room. Let me just go through it real quick so that you know. The Bundy mistrial pronouncement by the judge. I'm very disappointed with that. It should have been dismissed. With all the information that came out on the not just the misconduct, but the criminal behavior of the FBI, the BLM, and the DOJ, it should have been dismissed with prejudice. And that's what I was saying last night. Now, the judge probably didn't do that because she is being pressured by those who put her in office. Harry Reid, Obama, Holder, those guys. And she probably has a self-preservation motivation here. So that's probably part of it. But at any rate, it should have been dismissed. Now, it's very likely that a dismissal will happen by the Department of Justice at this point. Sessions might come in. Where is Jeff Sessions? Where is that, what's the name of that game? Where's Waldo? Where's Jeff Sessions? He's keeping a low profile, and of course a lot of us, like I said last night, and I always am, we're all a little upset at him, but he might be staying down below the radar at this point while all this other information comes out. And Q says to trust him, right? Trump says to trust, well, Trump shows some very, at least on the surface, some irritations with him, but the fact of the matter is maybe that's not the case. Whatever, we want Jeff Sessions to do something so he could come in and just tell this idiot attorney, U.S. attorney, who should be fired at this point, Myrie should lose his job there in Nevada at Las Vegas. Sessions should tell him to just go into court with a motion for dismissal, and that would get Judge Navarro off the hook with the people that are controlling her, Reid, Obama, Clinton, etc. So, we'll just wait and see what happens there. But yes, it's really bad. To put these people through the possibility of another trial is unconscionable, and it's tyrannical, and it's despotic. So that's how I feel about it. Okay, so that's where we are. I did hear that there might be a hearing on the 29th on malice. How that will affect whether the trial goes forward or not, I don't know, because this damn DOJ and FBI and BLM, they've got a point to make, and nobody really, the public at large does not understand the issues about the Bundy Ranch, why that was so critical to going forward for our freedoms and our liberties. People don't understand that their liberty is tied to the land. Without the land, you can't prosper. And this is all being tied up by the UN Agenda 21, now Agenda 30, and I've talked about that before. And I said I wouldn't waste your time. So anyway, that's basically what I said last night. I was very happy that Trump finally got his tax bill through. I know he lost a few of his provisions that he wanted, but this was a major victory for him, as I think we all realize. And us. It's a major victory for the American people. We're starting to throw off the chains of the banking system, the Federal Reserve, and all of these special interest groups that want to take our money and not give us anything back. Okay, so it's a very, very good thing. I'm looking forward to this thing being implemented, and I know there's some downsides to it, and we're not going to go all through that, but by and large it is an improvement over what we had. So and I saw, I think it was oh, I can't remember her name right now, but she's on Twitter, and I think she's on YouTube. I'm sorry I don't remember her name, but she said, "What's wrong with allowing a single mother to have more of her money?" I thought that was great. You know, it's the case for all of us. So, you know, it's a good thing. And the thing that amazed me is that the Democrats, almost all of them, voted against it. Did you notice that? Almost all of them. You know, the Republicans are hypocrites too. But when the Democrats say they're out there for the people, I know their line of thinking, oh, we're taking the money from the rich and giving it to the poor, but that's not how it works. And anybody who really watches the system knows that. Plus, it damages all of us in the long run when you use the power of the state to put a gun to somebody's head and rob them. And that's really what it is. It's legalized theft, and it doesn't make it any more morally justifiable than if you go out and rob a person on your own. So this was a good step forward, and hopefully we see some even more positive things in the future. The FBI and McCabe. That's the other thing I brought up. McCabe went in. I think he's testifying again today. Or maybe it was yesterday. Anyway, I lose track of some things because of all the stuff that's going on. But McCabe apparently said some things that countered other witnesses' testimony. So somebody's lying is what I was saying last night. Somebody's perjured somewhere along the line. Of course, we already know that was going to happen. Then I guess he refused to answer any questions about the Russian dossier. How he can do that in good conscience, I know he can, you know, they always claim national security. National security, of course, is the cover for criminal conduct. Bottom line, period. 90% of the time. 90% of the time. I've talked about this before, but the classification system really isn't to keep information from our enemies because they're going to get it anyway. It's really a control mechanism for the citizens, for the American people, so they don't know what their government is up to or elements of their government. That's really what it's about. It's protecting the guilty in government, the immoral in government, the treasonous in government. That's really what it's about. And the more that this comes out, the more you'll see that that's the case. Okay, so McCabe did that. That's along the line. Also, we're saying, you know, a lot more is going to come out with this whole thing, with Strzok and with McCabe and Comey and Lynch and all of that. The FBI, you know, I keep hearing, I said this last night, people say, Alex Jones for one, I pointed out, oh, it's just the top people in the FBI and all the agents are good and the same in the CIA. That's baloney, ladies and gentlemen. Let me tell you something. When the agency is corrupt at the top, the body rots and it goes all the way down through. Even if an agent down lower doesn't want to partake in that necessarily or do it, the fact is their efforts are tainted. Period. End of story. Okay? And if those people aren't willing to come forward and be whistleblowers, and I know they have their non-disclosure agreements and all that, but what's more important here, ladies and gentlemen, how long have I been calling for these agents, these officials, these bureaucrats in government to come forward like William Binney did, who now, Q, which comes from Trump, of course, says is an American patriot, a patriot of the highest order. That's what we need, ladies and gentlemen. So now, in this atmosphere of being able to whistleblow about the corruption in government, I encourage all of you in those three-letter agencies and these bureaucracies in the government and these intelligence community operations that you come forward and you tell us what's happening, okay? Back up those who have put their life, liberty, and well-being at stake. to try to make it better for the rest of us. And don't tell me that what the IC is doing in the deep state is for the American people. It is not. It is for them. When they talk about, their institutions being destroyed, which is, the democratic institutions of our government, that's all baloney, okay? It has nothing to do with the people. And we're not a democracy anywhere. We're a Republican form of government, a constitutional republic. So all this language is twisted around. When you heard George Bush say, you're either with us or with the terrorists, he meant just that. You either go along with what he says, and this is the IC talking too, or we'll label you a terrorist. So it's not about protecting the American people with all this nonsense. It's about protecting the interests of the intelligence communities, which are the banks, okay, primarily, and of course the interests of the deep state. You've heard me talk about that before, so I won't go on in more detail on that, okay? All right, and then I mentioned last night about Obama, and I'm not saying he's the only one, but under Obama it became just out of control. CIA, as we know from George, I forgot his name now. I do that when I stay up too late. Anyway, he did the expose back in the Mercury News in San Jose about the CIA drug running, and I'm very sorry I've forgotten his name. I think his last name is Webb, but that sounds like George Webb, so I might be recalling that incorrectly. But at any rate, he exposed that, and a lot of us knew about it anyway, okay? A lot of us have, and he just brought it on. Of course, he was suicided, 2 shots to the back of the head, right, sure. But at any rate, that's been going on for a long time. CIA using and aspects of the military to human traffic, drug traffic, arms traffic, those types of things. They've been doing it for a long time. But now we find out, of course, that Obama, in order to protect his interests with Iran, all right, dealt with Hezbollah and gave them, of course, arms and all this stuff, money, but cocaine, drugs, to then deal back into the United States. Obama is a traitor. Obama is a criminal. Obama is evil, okay? And he has fought against the American people from day one under the cloak of caring for everybody, under, what do they call it, value signaling or whatever. It's baloney. All he does is talk. He says one thing and he does something else. Everybody needs to wake up that Obama and everybody related to him has set out to destroy life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness in their pursuit of a Marxist, tyrannical, authoritarian system from top to bottom. Not that Bush wasn't about that, because he was. Anybody who's looked into the Bush backgrounds, I'm not saying it because Obama's black or because he's a Democrat. Actually, he's not a Democrat. That's a cover. Anyway, you see where I'm going with this. So I brought that up last night and how hideous that is. So Obama needs to be collared. I don't care if he's an ex-president or not. I don't really care. And I don't think most of us care either. And let me interject here. I saw some comments on Twitter, and I think on my last video, I'm not sure, not to be hard on Trump, that he's up against some huge enemies with a lot of power, and the whole cleaning out process isn't going to be done overnight. I understand that. But Trump expects us to be passionate. Somebody said, it's Trump's agenda, not yours, Roy. You misunderstand, okay? It is Trump's agenda to DTS, to drain the swamp. That is his agenda. It's not my agenda. I'm encouraging him. I'm pushing him, as a lot of us are, demanding that continue, because as I just mentioned, Trump expects us to be passionate, because if we're not, what's he wasting his time for? He's going to get crucified and nobody's going to appreciate it, which is, the story behind Jesus, right? Well, Trump's a pragmatist, okay? He might be willing to go so far, but he wants to see that we're really backing him, okay? So I push him all the time. And I just want to make sure that you understand that that's what that's about, okay? So it's not my agenda. It's Trump's stated agenda, drain the swamp, go after the criminals, go after the corruption in government. And we need to be passionate and be demanding it all the time. Why? Because not only Trump sees that, the entire nation will see that. You understand? So don't be silent. Like I said, Q is great, but you've got to do action. So expand your thinking and expand your action. And I'm also going to put a link down in the description box. One of the things that Q said was Satan is no longer in the White House, okay? And a lot of people have conjectured about what that was, and I wasn't sure I wanted to talk about it because it's kind of romantic to think of it in the more normal terms. But I will put a link. It's kind of spooky, actually. I did it on Twitter. A link down in the description box so that you can go see this. It's from an old movie from back in the 80s, I guess. But you can take it from there, and as Q says, happy hunting, okay? Not saying that there isn't an evil person in the White House that maybe they have control of, have kicked out or whatever. We know that Soros had some control over McMaster, for instance. Probably still does. I don't know if Trump keeps him in there, you know, to feed in disinformation or what. But the other thing about the acronym Satan is kind of interesting. I think you'll enjoy that. Like I say, it's a little creepy, so you know, have the lights on when you watch this, and you know, make sure that maybe you have somebody in the room with you because it is a little spooky. All right, thanks for everybody for putting up with me, and I hope this clears up some of the details from last night. And I will try to improve this connection in one way or the other, even if I have to go somewhere else. But as most of you have said, you appreciate me putting out the information as soon as I can. And so we'll just see how it goes. I thank you all for your forgiveness and your patience. Okay? All right, enough for now. Out here.